Each week, 12,000 pounds of foul, gooey kitchen grease is trucked from Las Vegas restaurants to the rural community of Amargosa Valley next door in Nye County.
Now, local businessman says he's performing a public service by trying to recycle tons of the trapped grease, turning it into biofuel or a feed additive for livestock.
But to the people who live near the grease pit, the operation is one big stink. George Knapp of the I-Team is here with the story.
If you've ever worked in a kitchen or you've ever cleaned out a grease trap, you know how foul that gunk can be. Imagine then a couple of acres of ooze and the smell it can generate. After each of our visits to the site in Amargosa Valley, the stench stuck to our skin and clothes for hours. The people who live near the operation say they feel trapped in their homes and largely abandoned by governments which should be regulating something like this.
When I walk out now, first thing I do is kind of, before I even go outside.
Like most of the 1,200 or so residents of Amargosa Valley, Skip Peffer moved out here for the clean air and elbow room. He and his neighbors say their quality of life has tanked as this odd menagerie has grown over the past few years. It purports to be a recycling plant for kitchen grease collected from 300 Las Vegas restaurants. The gritty brown grease is poured into large open tanks where heat from the sun separates reusable oil. On any given day, though, it flat out stinks.
It smells like something is dead, okay? That's what it smells like.
On a nice quiet night, George, I live about a mile away down at Frontier in Mojave. On a nice quiet still night, it smells like somebody dumped their toilet in the backyard.
Or maybe worse. In the largest of the holding tanks, the grease is so thick they use little tractors to move it around. In other, more watery tanks, islands of congealed gunk drift along, inviting birds or other critters to pop in. At several points, goop from the grease pit pours out into the soil. A lot of it gets loaded into dumpsters and hauled to a landfill.
I don't know what kind of fees the county's getting for this, but all of this stuff out on the ground is a violation of law.
The locals are worried what the grease might be doing to their water supply, and since it's smack in the middle of a wash, they envision floodwaters spreading the goo all over their valley. But it's the foul stench that bothers them most. Half a mile from the grease pit, the owners of this house feel trapped.
And you open the door, and that's how you know if you can go out or not. We can't leave the windows open anymore. We're in prison.
Residents have complained to Nye County officials but got nowhere. Nye has no zoning. Regulations of all kinds are loose, which is a primary reason the owner chose this location. And it's why the Nye County Commission ruled in July that the complaints don't rise to the level of a public nuisance. So neighbors went elsewhere.
I was out there. It's horrible.
After Nye Sheriff Tony DeMeo got a nose full for himself, he researched county law and had his deputies start citing the truckers who haul in the grease because they have no hauling permits. DeMeo says he can write a citation every day if the place isn't fixed.
We're going to make sure that to the best of the ability, and I can't sheriff's office, that operation gets legal. And it's less of a blight on that community as it is now. I mean, those poor people out there are suffering.
The company is called, oddly enough, A Honey Wagon. Honey, it isn't. Owner Mike Kostelak operates out of his home in Las Vegas. He told us by phone his plant is performing a valuable service by recycling waste that might otherwise be dumped in a landfill. Kostelak admits he doesn't have a solid waste permit, but says Nye County doesn't have a process for giving him one. In the past few weeks, other regulatory agencies have taken an interest, though. The I-Team learned that Kostelak's permit for a well was obtained with paperwork that said he was building a two-bedroom house, not a commercial plant. The Nevada Division of Water Resources is now investigating. Corners may have been cut with a septic tank, too, and with OSHA codes. Kostelak says he'll try to secure a solid waste permit, but that there isn't much he can do about the smell, which he thinks the neighbors are exaggerating.
I'd like to say, Mayor Goodman, what goes on in Vegas should stay in Vegas. What is he doing here? You bring us to 120 miles.
Not that he needs me to defend him, but Mayor Goodman has nothing to do with this. State officials have been prompted into making several inspection trips to that site out there, and they're now saying they'll get it into compliance one way or another. Mike Kostelak says he tried using chemicals to disperse the smell, but they didn't work all that well, and then they became too expensive. He expects to stay in business because he says recycling all that grease is a lot better than dumping it in a landfill. We'll keep you posted on how all this plays out. And yeah, he's got a point, If you can put it somewhere and do it using solar power more, good
Yeah.
for you, but it's not fair to these folks. We have some additional resources on our website, 8newsnow.com.
Thanks, George.
Sure.